and it could hold me up. And that worked a treat for me until we actually got into battle, and I found I had to swing it like a helicopter blade. That proved a little tougher. But the thing I enjoyed most of all was the little ear trumpet, because Owen is a bit deaf.
Sorry?
Using that was wonderful until we had to run. And I had to drop it, and it was slung down at a position where it was either cracking into my kneecap or other parts.
Children or young people here. John? Just saying.
Hi.
Hi.
One of my favorite parts of the Hobbit book, and what I'm really looking forward to in the next movie is, of course, dwarves and barrels going down the river. Can you please just kind of tell us about filming that and the difficulties that came with just being soaking wet all day?
Yeah. Let's just preface that by saying we have to be a little bit careful that we don't give too much away, because there are people everywhere with spy things and stuff.
Although we can pretty much recount what we've talked about in, I guess, in the production blogs, which you did see the dwarves and barrels.
We got to do some of it in a real river.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were in the Dolores River out of Nelson.
Best day ever.
Absolute. My most favourite day of the entire shoot. Freezing cold water, tremendous weight of water in our foam rubber fat suits that we wore under our costumes, and we loved it to bits.
We almost lost a couple. Richard went under, he came back up again, thankfully. Will almost ended up halfway down the stream. And,
yeah, that was deliberate.
I think, yes. I think because we already got to see how much costume we were wearing when we got it wet, and it wasn't just that, it was other times when we got it wet as well, but I particularly remember that day. I think my stuntman Bronson weighed himself when he was soaking wet. He was about 158 kilos. So I had to walk myself up the hill after that. I think you guys have probably all already finished lunch by the time I got up the hill, I think. Yeah, but that was a very cool day, and yeah, I'd love to do that ride again.
Yeah, and we all reckon they should make it into a theme park ride afterwards, because it was a huge amount of fun. But we filmed in the real river, the Dwarves River, but also a lot of that sequence was filmed in a fake river, or a thing that they created in a studio set where the barrels we all went round in a circle, really, pushed by these incredible jets of water. And you won't be able to tell when you see that sequence, but technically they achieved miracles with creating a situation where we could keep being in these barrels as if we were doing kind of this huge whitewater rafting thing, and we just went round and round in a circle.
It's like a giant washing machine, without the soap suds.
Another amusement park ride.
And they got these barrels, they put a big steel keel on them, and then we had rubber tyres so that they actually wouldn't sink. You couldn't sink them, you couldn't flip them over, unlike the Titanic.
Mine had a hole in it too, I remember. It was
your one did do quite a good job of sinking, actually, didn't it?
I thought there was a scuba diver underneath me because there was all these bubbles, but it was a bloody barrel leaking.
Yeah, that's your story. I think the bubbles came from somewhere else. One of these salubrious.
It was going around in the barrels was the best fun, and I really cheesed off my stunt worker by refusing to give him a chance. I enjoyed it so much. It was great, it really was.
What was it like working with Martin Freeman? And what were some of the best pranks he pulled on you guys?
Oh, it was a dream working with Martin Freeman. He is one of the funniest people on the planet, even if he does say so himself. And very charming, but he's also an incredibly talented actor. Working with him and with Ian and with Richard especially, I think was like a masterclass every day. And he is very naughty. Martin is one of the naughtiest people on the planet. He gets away with things that we could never get away with. Quite profane at times. If he didn't like a take, he would just start swearing so they couldn't ever use it, because obviously they didn't like that stuff. But yeah, he was very funny, and he would play lots of games with us and to us, but also very generous. When he wasn't on camera and he was feeding, he would actually work almost twice as hard to try and get a performance out of people.
Or try and make you laugh.
Or try and make you laugh at the same time.
That guy is the consummate professional. And when you think about it, a huge job. You know, he's in virtually every shot, and you know, he's carrying the story across what will be 3 epic movies. And I like Jed says, was like witnessing a great artist at work, and to be anywhere near that was just a huge privilege. I actually think his performance should win an Oscar. We'll see what happens, but it is one of the most gorgeous pieces of film performance you could ever see.
Hi guys. Hi. Over here.
Yeah, now we can see.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi. After the Lord of the Rings came out, how did you, after seeing the premiere of that, how did you feel watching The Hobbit after the big success of the Lord of the Rings?
Sorry, the Lord of what?
After the Lord of the Rings
The Lord of...
Yeah, I know what you mean.
You had some small involvement in the Lord of the Rings, didn't you, Jed?
Yeah, I think there's a certain amount of trepidation actually, being in a set of films that were following something that was so huge in terms of how it affected people all around the world. But we had great faith in our leader, Peter Jackson, and all the cast and crew, and I think actually we'd seen a sneak preview of it before the premiere, so to get it away from the shock of actually seeing it in front of all these people. It was actually an amazing day. 100,000 people turned out in Wellington. It's the whole of Wellington plus out of Wellington all coming to town all at once just to see me and these guys. So it was amazing. But there was a certain amount of trepidation, wasn't there, Peter?
Yes, there was. Although, yes, that was eased by having our own sneak preview beforehand, and I can remember sitting there just open-mouthed throughout the whole thing. We'd seen bits of it in post-production when they got us in to do little extra stuff on the sound and things like that. But when I finally saw the finished product, I was just absolutely gobsmacked. It was incredible. And then seeing it on that premiere day, there was a huge amount of emotion. I was there with my family, my wife and kids. So I got quite emotional at the end of it, actually. It was a huge thrill.
It was. And I think, you know, regarding Lord of the Rings too, I remember watching, I was telling Billy this last night, I was watching the special features of Lord of the Rings and seeing him and Dominic and Elijah getting ready and getting their feet on in caravans when they were filming that. It was a few years ago. I was like, I want to do that. I want to work with these guys. I want to go through what they went through. You know, and about 2 years out from audition, that's when I decided I wanted to do The Hobbit and told my New Zealand agent. And yeah, I never really thought in a million years I'd actually get to do it. And it's not until you see the film, because you're working like they call it a production bubble, I think. And it's not until you see the film you go, wow, I'm actually part of this whole franchise. And it is, you know, we're part of something that these guys set up in Lord of the Rings, you know. And it's, yeah, like I say, it's quite emotional when you watch it. So yeah, I'm in this. I'm actually in this film. Because you don't really believe it until you see it.
One of the questions earlier was about the design aspects, and seeing the film for the first time really made an impact on me. Similarly, I found it quite moving, because we had been working quite a lot with green screens. We would have sets and green screens behind, and whilst we had been told what was there, until we saw the film, of course, we couldn't actually see that. So we were reacting to things that didn't exist, and then we saw the film, and blow me down. Every set we went on to, we were knocked down flat by how brilliant the design was, and how we fitted into that. It was just amazing. And then to see all the technical work, all the artistry that went into it was stunning. And to know that you've been even a small part of that is very humbling and, yeah, personally quite moving.
Yeah, you probably almost preempted my question. I was in Stratford when Sirian was over last year, and he was saying about how filming with green screen, you had the hot pole, 2 separate rooms with slaved cameras.
Yes.
And he was obviously quite isolated and very emotional about it.
Yes.
How did you guys find filming in that way, and have you filmed that way before? You know, because it must be very hard to interact with the other actor when they're in a totally different space.
It wasn't so hard for us because we were all in the same room together, but it was very hard for Ian. And we did actually have to keep an eye on where the eye lines were because he was obviously quite a lot taller than us. I don't know if you know this, but we play not particularly tall people. And so we had to kind of always, Peter was always trying to get us to lift our eye line up to sort of imagine where he was. But yeah, he did have a really tough time. It's a lot easier when you have your cohorts in a space you can laugh and giggle, which Steve does a lot of, together. But Ian was isolated in this other room. And, but we would go and see him occasionally and take him the odd bit of sandwich that Steve had eaten.
We were asked not to feed him, but...
Just to make him feel part of the group.
But it's very technical. Like, for example, if you had if you had, say that's someone's head, and you had to look, let's say Gandalf, you had to look, he'd go, just look about 2 feet above that. So you had to look about 2 feet. Then if he moved anywhere, you sort of had to still keep like the same distance away. So, you know, it is quite a technical skill. But, you know, like, I mean, acting's about imagination anyway. So, and if you go to an audition and you've got a reader and the reader isn't the other character, the reader may be flat as a pancake when it comes to what they say back to you. So, I mean, you really have to imagine what someone is saying and how they are saying it, and then you naturally react to what you imagine they're saying, if you get what I mean. And so that's what you have to do with green screen. You have to imagine something there, and if that was there, how would you naturally react to it? So, yeah, I mean, it's good. It's just a different form of acting, really.
One of the things they did for Ian to try and ease that, because he was on his own, and to ensure he was getting the right eye lines, an assistant went around the small set that he was on with different coloured stickers to mark where each one of us was sitting around the table. So this assistant was going, well, here's the green one for Jed, and the blue one for Stephen, the pink one for Peter, and then, because we could hear Sir Ian, we all heard him say, that's very good. You do realise I'm colourblind. So it wasn't a total misery for him. He did keep his humour.
Hey, from here.
Oh, hey.
Hey, I was just thinking, in that scene where Bomber is catching food in his mouth when the other dwarves are throwing it, how many takes did you have to do for that, or did you happen to be trained for that?
I had 40 odd years of training for that. No, that was only about 3 or 4 takes. Jimmy Nesbitt was throwing the eggs. He's a very good golfer, so he's very used to getting little white things in the hole. So he threw it, and I think the great thing about that, I'm glad they had that in there, because that was just a natural reaction from all the boys, because he was just hipping eggs at me, and then suddenly one stuck. Something you didn't see in that. I don't even know whether it's in the extended cut or not, but there was one night with Andy Serkis where I just started eating a bowl of eggs, and you know, with film, if you start to do an action, you've just got to keep repeating it, and I just, you know, rookie mistake. And so I had to keep it. I think I ate about 12 boiled eggs on that particular day. I don't know whether that was the same day as I caught that egg, but
I think actually Christchurch ran out of free-range eggs because of that. But the other thing you have to remember is he does have a very large mouth. It may seem like it was a hard thing to do, but actually, we got whole caravans in there. Cars would disappear.
And food tends to find its way in there quite easily.
Good question.
Hey.
Yesterday we had Billy here, and he was telling us how working with Peter Beeson behind the camera, he couldn't tell what was going to happen next to get a true reaction. What can you tell us about what Peter did to get a true reaction? Funny, surprising, anything like that?
He has actually never spoken to us at all. No, he actually didn't really do that to us to get a surprise reaction. I don't think, did he? I don't remember.
I think we very quickly developed a working relationship with him where he would throw us a challenge in terms of our characters reacting to something that was happening, and we would come up with something, you know, and he trusted us to do that. So I remember him having to resort to sort of tricks or surprises or catching us out because we're all such genius actors.
Billy's lovely, he looks 12, he's quite charming. Don't tell him I said that.
Pete would, you know, he would just, he's pretty quiet, like, you know, behind the microphone. Yep, no, so you were Dwarves, okay, well, you just run around the corner and you'll see this thing over there, and you know, it's pretty scary, you know, life and death, you know. Yep. So let's shoot it.
Yeah, I think we'll go for some rolling resets on this, boys. What do you reckon?
And then at the end, he's like, yep, no, I think we got that. He's a man of very few words, but you just know, like, if he doesn't say much to you. Like, and put it this way, he won't just take it if he's not happy with it. If he doesn't say much, he goes, okay, let's just take that one. Yep, well done. And that's a big rap. I mean, you've worked with him a lot more, you probably know.
He hasn't really changed. You don't expect to get a pat on the back. And if he actually says to you that was amazing, then it has to be really amazing for him to say that. He just expects you there because you're good at what you're doing. So you kind of look after yourself. You don't need to be told that was fantastic. You know it was okay because we're moving on.
There have been some directors in history who have loved to do dozens and dozens of takes, and I don't think we got, on average, past more than 5 or 6 takes of any given shot, and sometimes it was just
true for you.
Yeah, I'm not in the film very much. There may be a reason for that. But Kubrick, for instance, Stanley Kubrick would do over 100 takes of one specific shot of something to get it right, whereas what Peter Jackson would do is just tell us roughly what we might kind of possibly want to think of if we were actually sort of probably facing certain death. And just take it from there.
Hey guys. Hi. Evening. So The Hobbit itself is a kid's book. It was originally written as a children's story.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a book?
Yeah.
Cool.
I was going to name the next one, but I'm not going to do it. It's fine. The film has a serious tone about it in some form, because it's kind of, you know, it's Lord of the Rings, Ocean Games. How did you guys feel like about I suppose making this children's book into something a little bit more serious, like sometimes you'll see it more serious than maybe the book might have connotated.
Yeah, I think there's an understanding that when you're making a prequel and you've already made a world that has certain bad things happening, that you have to actually up the game, regardless of what the book was like. It's a very thin volume actually in comparison to Lord of the Rings, and really a lot of people wondered why or how you could make 3 films out of it. But Tolkien did write a lot of appendices when he wrote Lord of the Rings that referred back to the Hobbit to kind of bridge that story and explain a lot of stuff. So a lot of the more serious moments are stuff that are from those appendices, not necessarily in the book. And you do actually have to be true to the world you've already created. And I think that, you know, we kind of lucked into Peter directing it because he had been so much a part of creating that world. And there has to be this understanding that darkness is coming, because we know what happens in Lord of the Rings. We know it's a bad place for various races, including the Dwarves. And so he needed to be that slightly more serious tone. But having said that, he cast Martin Freeman. So there was also a lot of, there is also a lot of levity in there as well. It's a lovely balance between the serious nature of Lord of the Rings coming, and know stuff's going to happen, people don't make it through, unfortunately. But yeah, I think that really comes from those appendices. That's where that slightly more serious note comes from.
I also think Peter Jackson is a genius, and while he doesn't make films for critics, he does make films for an audience. You good folk here today are that audience. So he is making films that will appeal to you. So upping the ante is part of that process. We aren't making a children's film and we aren't making a book. What we're making is an adventure story, an unexpected adventure, and that's what we want to take you on. And in the 21st century, it can't be a namby-pamby, dribbly little thing, all right? And I think one of the things that Peter is very, very good at doing is using his sense of what works and what doesn't. And that's not just in the shooting of it, but also in the preparation of script and things like that. So he started with the book, with the other writers, and now we've got the 3 fantastic films.
Hello, Dan here. First off, I'd just like to say, Stephen, I love you. I'm a huge Bob fan.
Thanks, Jack.
Oh, thanks for that. I'm coming to you, it's fine, it's fine. So, are you, Stephen and Jed, are you able to tell us any more about Mary Doe? And also, Jed, when is the movie coming out where all the characters are just you and Andy Serkis?
It's meant to be a secret. Well, yeah, Mary Doe, we're going to, me and Stephen, the fabulous Bomber, who's your favourite actor in the world, we're going to go and do a little thing called the Mary Doe Project, which is kind of an Australian outback zombie movie. And I think I'm playing 2 or 3 grains of sand, and maybe the wind. I'm not quite sure yet.
And a baseball bat.
And a baseball bat, yeah.
I think I'm playing about 3 characters as well, and it's fun. It's the guys, Nick and Paul from the special effects group in Sydney, and makeup effects, and Paul did my makeup for The Hobbit. He was the original Bomber prosthetic artist. He was there for quite a few months, and he's done, they did Wolverine and The Matrix, and quite a bit of stuff, so yeah, it's going to be fun, and you know, they're just a couple of guys that are really passionate about what they do, and they just want to get off the ground. They've got this thing on Kickstarter, so yeah, it'll be fun. Working with Jed again, and you know, being a zombie or whatever, slapping the prosthetics on again. Yeah, it's going to be cool.
And that project with Andy, I think that's a myth. I think it's a myth that you've made up. And certainly I would like to play every character with Andy. That would be fantastic. I'm just not sure that he's got any time. He seems to be the businessman on the planet. I was just up at this... Oh, okay. I can never tell.
Hi.
Hi. Hey.
I know, like, watching The Lord of the Rings and the behind the scenes, and you always hear about the camaraderie between the fellowship and things. I was wondering, with the dwarves and that, do you get the same sense of camaraderie?
No, we don't.
No, can't stand it.
Never mind.
It's just for the money, really. That's the only reason we did it. No, it was like being back at school. You know, we had a trailer park and we used to hang out, because quite often we weren't on set. And so it was just basically a whole lot of overgrown boys telling fart jokes all day. Pretty much what it was like.
There was a lot of video game playing and that kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hanlo hated that because we were right next to his trailer and we were yelling and screaming at the FIFA 13, and he was listening to his music and trying to do something or other.
Well, the rest of us were filming, making a film.
After 4 months in the trailer park, somebody knocked on my door one day and said, "John, yes, you love jazz music, don't you?" I said, "Yes." "You like it quite loud, don't you, John?" I said, "Yes, why?" "You may not be aware you've got the exterior speakers."
It was so bloody loud all the time.
And yeah, it was like...
No, there was tremendous camaraderie. We had a really, really good time together.
Hello. I was just wondering how you felt going down the red carpet, going to the premiere of the first part of the Hobbit.
Peter was pissed, so he felt great.
I'm not supposed to tell those stories. It's kind of unreal. There's 100,000 people all screaming out your name like they know you personally. It is kind of a surreal experience. And I've been lucky enough to do The Return of the King and Lord of the Rings, and I thought that was pretty special. But this was even more special because it was actually us. We were all together, and And it is one of those surreal moments that probably never happen again.
No.
And if it doesn't, I'm happy with that. It happened that one time where everybody was so enthusiastic about the fact that we'd made this movie in New Zealand. It was like all of New Zealand came out going, yeah, good on you, mate. Bloody good. That's great what you did. Thanks for that. Yeah, really positive. So it was good. It was an amazing thing. And you know, we went to premieres overseas, the one in London, the one in New York. They didn't even come close.
New York was mental.
Yeah.
Just the photographers, you know, hey, to the left, to the right, to the middle, hey, get out of the way, get out of the way. And the flashes were popping and was jet lag. But like the Wellington one, I was shitting myself beforehand going to the red carpet. Just adjusting my clothes, shall I wear this tie, shall I do my button up? And it was just a pain in the ass. And thanks. I got shut. But when I got it, once we got out there, you know, the first, you know, met a few people, signed some autographs. It was so calm. I couldn't believe it that the heat of the sun sort of left after about half an hour, and you know, it took us quite a while to get down there. And it was just, you know, just chatting to people. You know, it wasn't manic, and it was, you know, that was by far the best premiere. I mean, London was pretty special too. You know, it was at the Odeon, and you know, meeting Prince William, and that was, you know, he was very lovely in that. But I think Wellington was very special.
That was a magical day in Wellington, and a lot of people. True fans like yourselves who had travelled a long way from all around the world to be there, and you know, so it felt like a privilege to sign things, you know, artworks that people had done, programs and posters and things like that, because you know, as has been said before, the movies are made for the fans, and that kind of exchange between the movie making team and the fans that celebrate it is really important.
Was anyone here at Wellington premiere? Yeah, there's a few.
Good for you. Good for you.
Usually we go to some of the cons, and there's always a few that were at Wellington, and yeah, it was.
It was very humbling. It was very exciting. It's the only such world premiere I've done, and as Jed said, if another one doesn't happen, that will live fondly in my memory until the day I die next week. But it was fabulous to be able to attend that. And Peter Jackson is a very family-oriented person, and we were able to have enough tickets to take family members with us. So I was there with my wife and 5 out of my 6 children with their partners. It was just extraordinary, and a day I don't think any of us will ever forget.
My son actually plays Wills in the countdown ads that have been on TV. He got stopped almost as many times as I did. So I think he was quite taken aback by that. He said, I'm not in the movie. I'm like, oh, you Wills.
It's funny how you get recognised for ads more than you do for the movies.
It's so cute. Anyone here not married?
Trying to sell him a son again.
Just trying to sell him off, get him out of the house.
Somebody down the back here? Yes.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey, how you going?
I can remember the first time I saw the film, and I was just taken aback at how great you guys looked on the film, like the costumes especially.
We looked awesome.
Yeah, despite this mind frame of how great you guys looked, I've still got to ask, was Orlando Bloom just as beautiful in person as he was? Yeah. Like, did he smell good?
One of the pointies. We weren't allowed to get that close to him.
Yeah. He's actually a cardboard cutout. We just kind of move him from place to place. And someone moves his arm from behind. He's not a real person, he never has been. And then he's an actual actor, but no, he's a lovely guy.
He is a lovely guy.
He is ridiculously good looking. You know, to the point where it was almost blinding when
you just want to punch him, basically.
And he has a gossamer thin costume. It's kind of, you know, some leather trousers, which bordered markers, and kind of frilly shirt. I mean, he doesn't have to put all that stuff on. He's got the best life in the world.
It was interesting seeing like Orlando and also Elijah, and they were just so excited to be back because, you know, they had their journey, and this was a different journey. I think sometimes he felt a little bit on the, you know, in a way he was on the outer because he could see us having our own journey.
Desperately wanted to be as cool as we were.
But on the other hand, he got to come back and spend time with Peter and Fran, and I think they were just very, very excited, and he said he was very blessed that he got to revisit that again. You know, it was something that was pretty exciting. And I remember, you know, because Hugo was there, Hugo Weaving, Kate Blanchett was there for only about a week, and everyone just drooled over her. It was ridiculous. She's just fantastic. But Hugo was funny. He said he was really interested in dwarves. He says, dwarves, there's something about you guys I just love. He goes, elves are so, and I said, up themselves? He goes, yeah.
Quite backwards, you can do the hanky trick with elves. What's going on? Man, they look great. Pointy ears, lovely though.
Since doing this film, I've really gone off tall, good-looking, slim women. I much prefer women who are about 4'2", with whiskers. I had to sit next to Orlando Bloom for about 6 months, 5 months maybe. He would come in every day, sit next to me to be made up. And the number of women who just happened to need to come in to see me. I ended up in a deck chair in the car park. It was at least 6 of the women.
Do that so well.
Hi. If you could go back and play any other character on The Hobbit, who would you go back and play?
Galadriel.
And we would have an incredible love story.
Do the turn. You do the turn.
You do the turn.
No, you do it. You won't do the turn. I'd quite like to play Schmiegel. I can't do the voice, but I'd quite like to have a crack at doing that, just because he's such an ugly character, and I'm so good looking to be such a challenge. I think I have to really push myself to be that ugly.
I'd love to go back and play the director.
Yeah. I would love to be any other character except Lloyd.
Alright, yes, we've got time left. I think we've got time for 2 or 3 more questions as well too, so I'm just going to pass over now to Chris Baker. Let's just, here we go.
Hey guys, one of my favourite scenes in the movie is where you're cleaning after you've had your meal. I'm just wondering, was it CG or was it real plates you're tossing through the house? And if it's CG, how hard is it like catching a fake plate?
It's all real, mate. It's all real.
In fact, we had a stuntman standing between 2 cameras to catch those plates that were being thrown around. And at one point, we were told, whatever you do, don't throw them directly at the camera, because the glass on the front between the 2 lenses, we were told, was worth $40,000 per camera.
25 actually, but you know, inflation.
That was almost my things was going up and up the whole time. Yeah. No, there were CG elements in there, there's no doubt about it, and it's just acting, mate. Simple as that.
I was eating, I didn't do any of that, mate. Yeah, like that, that's what we do. It was seamless between, you know, I wasn't there on the day. I'm like, Jen, you did quite a bit of that, didn't you? You were.
Yeah, I did.
What was your favourite part of New Zealand that you filmed in?
Oh, that's a hard question. We went to so many beautiful places. I have to say for me, Denison Bluffs, which was one of the first places we went to film in the North Island, just out of Matamata. It didn't Matamata that we ever met it before. It's kind of these limestone bluffs that kind of come out of the ground. It was just extraordinary. It was like prehistoric New Zealand. You can imagine it being like that forever and ever and ever. And yeah, so for me, because it was one of the first locations we went to, and I'd never been to that area before, I think I found that extraordinarily beautiful. It reminded me of Taihape, where I'm from. I kind of got a bit of a lump in my throat when I saw it.
Yeah.
Quite sad.
We went to so many amazing places, but there's a place called Paradise. It really is paradise. Down from Queenstown, from Glen Orkney, and the sort of scenes filmed there for Bayon's house, and absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, that was, I think, because we got cars in Dunedin, and that was the big...
No speeding.
There was no speeding. That was the South Island leg, and we got to drive around the South Island. I got to drive from Dunedin through Central Otago, through Middlemarch, to Queenstown, Te Anau, and then Tekapo. And that was glorious, just going on the journey and seeing all these parts of the South Island that I didn't see. Funny story about that too, we go from Dunedin Airport and we go, let's go to Dunedin, to the Octagon, and have some lunch before we go to Central Otago, to Middlemarch. So Dean and Aidan hop in a car together, which was that was a bad omen from the start, because, you know, neither of them would have a career in rally driving or navigation. But they both can't even find their way to the toilet, let alone the car. But anyway, so we called them because we're sitting at lunch and where Dean and Aidan are? And they'd already gone past Middlemarch. So on the way from Dunedin Airport to Dunedin, they'd somehow turned off and gone like an hour and a half in the wrong direction. Well, it was totally believable.
But they look great.
They look great. But they came back and just went, and then all was forgiven.
They're both very pretty, but they're very stupid.
My favourite place was the Pelorus River. One of the things about that was how quickly it transformed itself. We were shooting there, we had a little bit more to do, which was part of the reason, not the entire reason, but part of the reason they had to build a water flume in the studio, because the police actually came to us one day while we were working in the river and said, you've got to get out. There's a storm in the hills and the river's coming up. And I kid you not, that river must have risen at least 20 feet in just a matter of hours. And we have never seen a crew move so fast to pull out all the equipment. They had scaffolding all over the place, not all of which they managed to get out.
Most of it.
Some of it got washed away.
Yeah, I got an uncle, Glennon, and I said, mate, if you want some cheap scaffolding, head to the mouth of the Pelorus River. Because there's a whole pile heading your way. So
there was an interesting discussion when the police arrived. Because they're like, hey, what are you doing? I'm Peter Jackson, shooting a movie. Got any ID? It's easy to say, mate. Easy to say. Who's your friends? You been drinking?
That's like Jimmy Nesbitt. We go, oh, have you got an invitation? He goes, this is my invitation. This is my invitation here.
Jimmy Nesbitt, award-winning actor, right?
Award-winning actor.
Hey. I just wanted to say it's actually an absolute pleasure to have you guys like back up here on stage and everything like that, because I was at the... Yeah, I was at the Wellington premiere, and every time you guys came close to me, you'd get called to the other side. So now I have another chance to get your signatures. But what I wanted to ask is whether you guys could do your best Smeagol impression.
There are copyright laws. We have signed contracts to not transgress. I'm sorry. With my voice, I could never get that high.
If we could do it, it just wouldn't do it justice. Andy Serkis is a freak of nature. A lovely freak of nature. Freak of nature, never. I can't. I mean, we just can't.
I had a couple of bourbons last night, so my voice is a bit rusty, so...
No, out of respect for Anne.
Out of respect.
Yeah, out of respect for Andy.
Out of respect for the fact that we can't bloody do it.
There's a reason why he plays the part, because he's the only one who can.
Yeah, we want to have you remember the good.
Hey, there's I know there's a few people with their hands up. There's a young lady down here who's had her hand up for a while. I'm just wondering, where's the microphone? Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Hey, there we go.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi.
How are you?
Very good.
We're great, thanks to you guys.
Well, I'm starstruck to see you guys because basically I've got the Lord of the Rings trilogy and I've got the Hobbit bag right here.
Good for you.
So So I am a big fan of Lord of the Rings and big fan of The Hobbit. And can you ask Peter Jackson if I can be the director's personal assistant? I'd like to help you guys to be in The Hobbit.
I love ambition.
Hobbit is my favourite thing, and you know, it's my thing, and I love it. I had an inspiration from Ian Holm, from the Lord of the Rings, so he is my special person ever. But his cousin, Frodo, which I know. Thank you.
We will certainly ask Peter Jackson on your behalf. He needs all the help he can get.
We clearly were no help to him.
And you're going to be very excited come December for the next one. It's going to be spectacular.
Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Thank you for getting us out of Andy, I didn't know you were able to make it here.
Anyway, I got goosebumps. I don't know, probably everyone got goosebumps watching just the trailer for the very first of the Hobbit movies, where we were all sitting around and you're singing that song. I mean, were you all singing that song, or was it someone else doing the singing for you?
Ooh, no, we all sang it. Yeah.
Could you possibly?
Some of us.
Sounds so good.
Hang on.
He's forgotten the words.
He was
It just makes you think. First.
Far over the misty mountains go, through dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day.